Hi everyone, we're the Slomies Fighting Fallacies. My name is Gillian.
I'm Katrina Matthews.
I'm Jorge Magdonal.
I'm Stephanie Monson.
So our first fallacy is the appeal to false authority, and we define this as when someone who is not an expert is recognized as an authority figure and used to validate an argument. So basically, an authority figure is framed as a credible source and authority on the topic they're discussing to, solidify their argument more so. This clip shows Oprah, advertising Weight Watchers, but in a quite interesting way.
This is the joy for me. I love bread. I love bread. I now just manage it, so I don't deny myself bread. I have bread every day. I have bread every day. That's the genius of this program. I lost 26 pounds and I have eaten bread every single day.
So obviously Oprah loves bread, and she's making that apparent to the viewer, basically showing them you can still do Weight Watchers and not change your lifestyle, and I eat all this bread still and whatever. But obviously she's not a nutritionist or an expert because, she's Oprah and, is just used because of her pop culture influence and whatnot. So we also don't even know if she's actually used Weight Watchers. So how do we really know if, that's true, if there's also even no evidence to support that she's lost weight from eating bread while on Weight Watchers?
The origin of appeal to false authority, it's a Latin expression, so argumentum translates to argument, ad can translate to or from, and verecundium is authority. So background is the first time it was cited, and it was in 1690 in John Locke's book, An Estate Concerning Human Understanding.
So in this clip, we see that Jenny McCarthy is an ex-Playboy model, and she's been invited on an interview on CNN, and she is basically, trying to prove to the public that her son got autism from vaccinations.
Book, Empowering Parents. You hear story after story of parents taking medicine into their own hands. This is truly a revolution.
Is there a danger in putting medicine into your own hands? Because technically you're not a doctor. Some of the other mothers in this book that talk about what they've done are not doctors as well.
Right, it's really hard. And I should say, take your child's health into your own hands. It's not like we're compounding medicine in our kitchen. I think greed has made it so almost impossible, though, to change the schedule until all the parents start shouting and screaming. This is ridiculous. You're hurting our kids.
So she is basically also advertising her book on her whole journey with her son having autism. And we obviously see that she is not an expert. So that this clip was a great example of utilizing this fallacy.
Another example of how false authority is represented is with that example of Trump. Trump is a businessman. He's not really a meat connoisseur. So him saying the world's greatest steaks doesn't have much value to it because he is no expert in the topic of meats. So that's an example of how false authority is used.
Recognizing false authority. The fallacy closest to false authority would be ad populum, and defining ad populum would be something must be true because everyone believes it. And an example of that would be at one point, everyone thought that the earth was flat and it was widely accepted. But now we obviously know that the earth is not flat. And an ad populum could get confused with an appeal to false authority because they both lead the audience to be misconstrued by the speaker's argument based on lack of evidence. And we can remember ad populum because it's based on majority, and false authority because it's based on believing in status.
So our last fallacy is false analogy, and we define this as a comparison between two concepts that have nothing in common. You'll see in this clip, in this Mercedes-Benz commercial, the marketing team strategizing this in a way where it's, you know, relating ice cream to the concept of buying a Mercedes.
Raymond was best described as a thoughtful child, but his mind wasn't occupied by the same things as other kids his age. Raymond, you see, has waited his whole life to try ice cream. When he was young, Raymond told himself he'd try ice cream once he turned 30. Then it was after he got married. And now it's when he gets the big promotion. So Raymond has just gotten used to saying, well, maybe next year. And to many people, his decision doesn't make much sense. Clearly he wants ice cream. He knows he can afford it. It might even enrich his life, and yet he resists. Still, some nights he lies awake, wondering what ice cream tastes like.
So we see false analogies used a lot in commercials to, you know, try to even throw the audience off, appealing to some type of emotion of two analogies that have no relation to each other. Basically saying, since this and this have this quality in common, they must have this quality in common, and they're showing that comparison or relation with the fact that he hasn't tried ice cream his whole life and has been waiting, and they're saying, don't wait to, you know, buy our Mercedes if you have the money for it.
So the origin of a false analogy can be derived from the two Latin words falsum, which means to deceive, and analogia, which translates to proportion. Plato also describes the analogy as the likeness of two things. The first time that false analogy was recognized as an inductive fallacy was in 1843 by John Stuart in the book A System of Logic. Here he describes something as a false analogy when a resemblance in one point is inferred from resemblance in another point, though there's not only evidence to connect the two circumstances, there's no evidence that connects them, but the evidence proves that they're not related at like whatsoever. Here we can see that in this example where it says, where it provides an example of our education system. It says, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid. So here it takes intelligence and the ability to climb a tree and compares them, saying that if you can climb a tree, you are a genius. And as we can tell, that's obviously, they'd have nothing in common with each other.
As for recognizing false analogies, there are two similar fallacies that it can be mistaken for. The first being false cause. This fallacy assumes a cause for an event where there is no evidence that one exists. An example would be the phrase, like, say, the recent earthquake was due to people disobeying the king. That those obviously don't relate to one another or make sense. It could be mistaken for a false analogy because of the idea of comparing two ideas that don't relate. The second option would be ad hominem, which is an argument that attacks a person's character rather than what they're saying. So another example would be, you don't even belong to a church. How can you be a Christian? This could be mistaken for a false analogy because this fallacy also compares two ideas that aren't relevant to the argument.
So for equivocation, we have created the definition of using vague diction of an expression or word that is used to mislead the audience, shifting between different meanings of the phrase that are critical to the argument. In this video, we see Peter Griffin from The Simpsons. Family Guy. utilizing this fallacy.
What are you doing, Peter? I'm making my own Red Bull. Lois can't stop me from experiencing the manic highs and lows my body demands. Whoa, hang on. You're adding kerosene? Peter, that's insane. That'll destroy your body. Kerosene is fuel, Brian. Red Bull is fuel. Kerosene is Red Bull. I want you to leave me alone while I'm doing my important work. Peter, that drink will kill you. Brian, whatever kills me makes me stronger. See, Brian? I feel great. Peter? Peter, are you alive? Oh, you're alive. Okay, I won't eat you then. I was gonna eat you.
So in that little funny clip from Family Guy, equivocation is used when he is relating kerosene as fuel to Red Bull also being fuel, therefore him, thinking that it is okay to ingest. So that's a great example of it, quite literally explaining how, he thought the relation was. An equivocation is generally alternating between two different meanings of a word or phrase in terms of their argument to solidify their point more so.
So the origin of equivocation can be straightly found from the word equivocationum. Sorry for the butchering, but it basically can be broken down to two roots. The root equi, which means equal, and vocar, which means to speak. So the first time that equivocation was used in text was by English philosopher John Wycliffe. He is someone that wrote the Bible basically for the Middle Ages that everyone read, and he used it to represent both sides equally. And here in this clip of The Simpsons, we see how equivocation is used in selling houses, for example.
Marge, I had a lot of calls about you. Customers love your no-pressure approach.
Well, like we say, the right house for the right person.
Listen, it's time I let you in on a little secret, Marge. The right house is the house that's for sale. The right person is anyone.
But all I did was tell the truth.
Of course you did. But there's the truth and the truth. Let me show you.
It's awfully small.
I'd say it's awfully cozy.
That's dilapidated.
Rustic.
That house is on fire.
Motivated seller.
That's a beauty.
Forget about that house. That's the murder house.
So here in this example, the manager of Marge shifts the meaning of the word truth. In order to sell more houses, he tells Marge to mess with the word, mess with the truths that come with the house in order to sell it, and in order to get buyers to obviously buy the house.
Recognizing equivocation. There are two fallacies that are similar to equivocation: hasty generalization and ad hominem. Hasty generalization is making a conclusion that isn't logically justified. An example would be a sports car cuts you off on the freeway, and now you believe that everyone who drives a sports car is a jerk. This could be confused with equivocation because they both withhold information and jump to conclusions. The next is ad hominem. Ad hominem diverts discussion away from the real point, and an example of that would be calling someone a name. It's basically just attacking the person and not their actual argument. And this could be confused with equivocation because it shifts the attention from the actual argument onto something else.
So these are our citations for our presentation, and thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
Bye.